It looks like Logan Paul will be challenging Roman Reigns at Crown Jewel for the Universal Title. What's up, everybody? It is Flamin' Ricky DeRays, right here on the WrestleHavoc Podcast, here with my review of Friday Night SmackDown and AEW Rampage from September 16th, 2022. We got a lot of things to cover right here on the show. Of course, the main story is Logan Paul versus Roman Reigns is officially set for Crown Jewel, but I'm going to save my entire thoughts on the actual press conference and the announcement of the match for episode 1 of the WrestleHavoc Podcast, which will be uploaded tomorrow on YouTube. Also, I'm going to be talking about AEW Rampage as well, my thoughts on Logan Paul as a whole, and all of the other craziness that happened between both shows. But before I get on with all of this craziness regarding SmackDown and Rampage, make sure to like and subscribe to the WrestleHavoc Podcast right here on YouTube, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content, and as the frickin' referee would say, ring, ring, ring that damn bell for more notifications. Also, the WrestleHavoc Podcast is also available on audio platforms. It's available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, and Google Podcasts. So if you guys want to check out the WrestleHavoc Podcast in audio format, it is available on all of those platforms. All right, let's talk about SmackDown, man. Overall, I thought SmackDown was a fine show. Realistically, the main things that happened on this show was, of course, the opening with Logan Paul challenging Roman Reigns for the Universal Title, and also that Fatal 4-Way number 1 Contenders match, which was absolutely fantastic. Of course, that included the New Day, Hit Row, Imperium, and the Brawling Brutes. But, yeah, man, let's talk about Logan Paul. Of course, he opens up SmackDown, and he talks about, ladies and gentlemen, how he does it again. He has a habit of opening his mouth and saying stupid stuff. He had someone on his podcast, and it was Roman Reigns. Of course, Roman Reigns was a guest on the Impulsive podcast a couple of days ago. And then at this point, Logan Paul is actually getting booed out of the building, which is very weird to say. But then after that, he said after his podcast, if he wanted to wrestle him, it was his match. He would tell us that, you know, basically throughout the entirety of Logan Paul's promo, he was getting all the what chants. Logan Paul then states he opened his mouth about Floyd Mayweather and couldn't put him down. He issued a challenge and says that he took the liberty of setting up a press conference tomorrow at Las Vegas, which already happened, by the way, which I will give you guys my thoughts as I've stated earlier. And Roman, if he is man enough, he will show up and meet him face to face. Then, who comes out? Paul Heyman officially makes his return after being F5 through the announce table at SummerSlam a couple of months prior. So Paul Heyman comes out, and he comes out with the entirety of the Bloodline. Of course, he comes out with both the Usos, Sami Zayn, and of course the newest member, Solo Sikoa, who is actually the new NXT North American Champion who defeated Carmelo Hayes this past Tuesday night on NXT. So Paul Heyman comes out with the Bloodline. He basically introduces himself as usual, talks about how he serves as the special counsel and the wise man to our tribal chief, and the reigning, defending, you get the whole gist of what Paul Heyman's going to say. The Usos, Solo Sikoa, and Sami Zayn, then what happens? They surround the ring, shakes the hand of Logan Paul. So Paul Heyman, while the Bloodline is actually surrounded in the ring, Paul Heyman actually enters the ring and shakes his Logan Paul's hand. Paul Heyman says he's got this, and he tells the Bloodline to handle him. There he is, Logan Paul. He has to tell him, there's anyone outside of WWE that could be a Paul Heyman guy, it's Logan Paul. The man, he's an athlete, he's a global sensation, he stepped up and fought the greatest boxer of all time, Floyd Money Mayweather, and never went down. He held his own and went the distance like Rocky. Then again, fighting Floyd Mayweather at 6'2", when Floyd would come up to him and headbutt him in the testicles, it's all right, which was a funny-ass statement by Paul Heyman. Says that he wouldn't fight Floyd Mayweather, and Logan immediately replies that, of course he wouldn't, because it's Floyd Mayweather. So, constant mention of Floyd Mayweather on this whole promo segment. Logan says that he is not sure that, you know, he would fight anybody. And Paul says he knows that they are in Anaheim, California, and, you know, he tells the crowd to not act like Mickey Mouse. His brother Jake Paul fights with the greatest MMA striker, Anderson Silva, who is going to knock him out. No disrespect. That's what Paul Heyman stated. he would fight his brother. He wouldn't fight his brother or him, and he shouldn't open his mouth about the tribal chief, Roman Reigns. He doesn't care about his athletic ambitions, his background, and he doesn't care that he and his brother changed the fight game. All he cares about is that right here and right now, he makes the smart decision of picking a fight with somebody else. Logan says that he is a promoter and he knows how this works. By the way, it's just a press conference. And he asks Paul Heyman, what are they also afraid of? He sees a lot of Samoans and Sami Zayn and one Paul, and he couldn't understand why they are so afraid. Logan then asks Paul Heyman if they are afraid while at the press conference he might challenge Roman Reigns, and he would challenge him for the title. And, of course, now assume that will happen. We would all assume that Roman would smash him, and he is probably right, but what if he doesn't? What if he lands that one lucky shot on Roman Reigns, and it takes one shot, and he drops his tribal chief like a sack of potatoes, which was a stupid-ass line by Logan Paul, I will add, cringeworthy as hell. It says, what if he beats Roman Reigns for the undisputed title? And Paul replies, if his brother had balls, he would be his sister, and he doesn't, so he is not, which was funny as shit. He doesn't like it in his scenario. He doesn't like him either. Logan says that he is funnier than he looks. Paul then says that he has to handle him, so he calls out Solo Sikoa. Solo Sikoa then enters the ring. Logan then makes a bet. It says that he bets that if he can knock him out and leaves the ring before Solo gets to him, Paul Heyman actually retreats, and then Paul Heyman then Sami Zayn actually enters the fray, and what happens is that, Heyman actually leaves the ring, and Sami says a little diplomacy goes a long way, and then he goes to Logan Paul, and after that what happens is Logan Paul immediately knocks the shit out of Sami Zayn, and then Logan replies, that's how things work around here, he would like to know. And then the Usos and Solo Sikoa enter the ring, but then Logan Paul retreats, which would then lead to Ricochet come out, which would then lead us to our first opening match of the evening with Sami Zayn versus Ricochet, which we had this match a couple of months prior on SmackDown, which was a fantastic opening match. I think it was for the IC Championship, but every time when Sami Zayn and Ricochet are in the ring, they always deliver a fantastic match. But what are my thoughts on this opening segment when it comes to Logan Paul and Paul Heyman? Again, as I've stated earlier, I will talk about my thoughts on the match being announced for Crown Jewel because it is official. Logan Paul will face Roman Reigns for the undisputed title at Crown Jewel. But what are my thoughts on Logan Paul, as a whole in WWE, and what are my thoughts on this opening segment? So, overall thoughts on Logan Paul in the WWE look. When he signed his WWE contract, I was kind of skeptical, and I will be the first one to admit, when he wrestled at WrestleMania, he did fantastic. But when he wrestled at SummerSlam, he blew me away. Logan Paul looked absolutely phenomenal at SummerSlam. Nobody can deny that. Now, my thoughts on the promo that he cut. I'm sorry, but that promo that Logan Paul cut was pure cringeworthy in my opinion. I did not like the promo that he cut. Let's be 100% honest here. If you're going to book Logan Paul for any wrestling angle, realistically, Logan Paul should be the heel. Even though he's like a major celebrity and all, I think he's better off as a heel instead of a babyface because if you guys listen to this actual promo that Logan Paul cut, like the dude was getting booed out of the building. It made no sense whatsoever for him to cut a cringeworthy promo in front of all those people. But Roman Reigns versus Logan Paul, from first glance, it's a shitty idea. Realistically, and I'll go more in depth in the main WrestleHavoc Podcast show. But, at the end of the day, I genuinely actually believe that it will be a pretty good match because Logan Paul has proven to be fantastically good in the ring. Do I think they will put the championship on Logan Paul? Absolutely not. I mean, this is only Logan Paul's third match in the WWE, so I think it'd be a really stupid idea for them to put the championship on him, but hopefully they don't do that. But I'll go more in depth later on tomorrow on the main show. But, let's talk about Ricochet versus Sami Zayn. Of course, these guys are no strangers to each other in the ring. Both lock up. We got a side headlock by Sami. Sami goes for the shoulder tackle. Sami then takes Ricochet down. He applies the wrist lock. Ricochet then goes back up. He applies the wrist lock of his own, but then Sami goes back for the side headlock. Then after that, Sami goes for the shoulder tackle. We get a cover and an immediate near fall. Then Sami Zayn goes for the side headlock once again. Ricochet then goes for an immediate Hurricane Rana. You guys know the Hurricane Rana is a fantastic move. I love me some Hurricane Ranas. That came out of nowhere. Then he takes Sami Zayn down. Ricochet actually then goes for the uppercut. We get a chop by Ricochet. Sami then retreats from the ring. He stares at Logan Paul. Ricochet then takes him out onto the outside. Ricochet then takes him back in the ring. Ricochet goes for the springboard attempt, but Sami knocks him down. At this point, Sami is in control. He goes for repeated rights. Sami then takes Ricochet to the turnbuckle, and then Sami goes to the top. He hits an elbow on Ricochet, and then goes for the cover and a kick out. Then Sami goes for the clothesline. We get a cover once again, and a near fall. Ricochet then tries to fight back. Ricochet then goes for the immediate head scissors. After that, Ricochet misses a right. Ricochet then goes for the back elbow. He goes to the top, but then Sami pushes Ricochet to the outside. Once we're back from break, Sami Zayn is in control. He goes to the top, but then Ricochet goes to the top as well, but gets taken down. Then Sami drops him down, but then Ricochet goes and counters with a beautiful dropkick, which looked absolutely fantastic. Ricochet then fights off Sami Zayn. He kicks. We get a couple of kicks by Ricochet, followed by another Hurricane Rana. After that, Ricochet then drives him into the corner. He follows up with a springboard crossbody. Goes for the cover and a near fall. Ricochet then tries to go for the recoil, but then Sami actually counters. Ricochet actually fights back and takes him down. We get a standing moonsault by Ricochet, countered when Sami gets the knees up. We get a cover into near fall. Meanwhile, Paul Heyman actually, this is actually one of the highlights of this entire match, realistically, and it was not even involving Sami Zayn or Ricochet. Paul Heyman accidentally spills Michael Cole's soda, and then Michael Cole just gets pissed on him on commentary, and then, as retaliation, Paul Heyman just spills the rest of his soda all over Michael Cole's papers, which was funny as hell. Paul Heyman is a gem. Fantastic. He's a gem. So once we're back in the ring, Sami goes for the waist lock. He picks up Ricochet for the blue thunder bomb attempt, but Ricochet escapes. Ricochet then goes for the super kick, and then after that, Ricochet goes to the top, but then Jimmy Uso is on the apron trying to make the distraction because, of course, that is what heels do. Then Ricochet gets distracted, but then Sami actually manages to capitalize and actually manages to hit the blue thunder bomb. After that, Logan then goes for the distraction of his own, but then we get a cover on Sami, I believe. I think Sami went for the cover. I completely forgot. I messed up my notes here. But we get a near fall regardless. Sami then goes for the right hand, but then Ricochet goes for the Hurricane Rana once again, but this time it was out of nowhere. We get a cover into near fall. He picks up Sami, but then Jey Uso once again, or I should say, no, Jimmy was actually on the apron before, but this time Jey Uso's on the apron. Ricochet actually tries to take him out, but then Sami goes for the roll-up, and we get a near fall. Ricochet then drives the knee onto Sami Zayn. Jey Uso then at this point is on the apron, but then Ricochet goes for the drop kick. Then Sami goes for the half and half. After that, Sami goes for the cover and a near fall. Then Sami Zayn argues with Jey Uso, of course, for the past couple of weeks. You guys know Sami Zayn in storyline is the honorary use of the bloodline, and Jey Uso in storyline has not really been all too keen with Sami Zayn. Jimmy Uso is totally fine, but Jey Uso sees right through the bullshit. So at this point during the match, Sami Zayn is arguing with Jey Uso. After that, Sami Zayn is on the outside. Sami then goes straight head-to-head with Jey Uso, so tensions are boiling at this point. Ricochet then goes for the senton over the top rope and takes out everybody. Ricochet then takes Sami back in the ring. He goes to the top and goes for the beautiful shooting star press off the top. After that, we get a cover by Ricochet, and Ricochet manages to win the match. He then celebrates with Logan Paul. At this point, the Bloodline are on the apron. Then what happens, Madcap Moss comes out with the chair to make the save. And, of course, Madcap Moss later on in the evening will face Solo Sikoa for the NXT North American Championship on the show, which I believe this is the first time the NXT North American title was actually being defended on SmackDown. But spoiler alert, of course, Solo Sikoa retains the title, which made total sense because of the fact that he just won the championship on NXT this past Tuesday. But, yeah, man, overall thoughts on the match. Great match overall. Ricochet, I love the story that they were telling regarding both Sami Zayn and Jey Uso as well in the near future. I think they're definitely leading to something. It's going to lead to eventually Sami Zayn to split from the Bloodline. Now, we're going to see how that works because of the fact that Solo Sikoa in storyline is actually on the side of Sami Zayn. If you guys don't remember, later on in the show, Solo Sikoa actually wanted Sami Zayn instead of the Usos to be in his corner. So that was actually a pretty interesting touch right there. All right. We get a backstage video package on Karrion Kross. Of course, if you guys do not know, Karrion Kross actually managed to attack Drew McIntyre last week on SmackDown. It talks about how the hands of time decide the judgment. And last, for the chosen one, Mr. McIntyre, he was publicly executed by the appointed people's executioner. He tried to fight back, but then he did what everybody else does. He let go. That is the biggest difference between he and him, because he doesn't let anything go. He changes the timelines and he rewrites history. And as for him, he's going to make sure that he never gets out. And then, of course, he closes his promo segment with TikTok. Of course, that is the common phrase with Karrion Kross. I love the fact that Karrion Kross is back, man. I genuinely believe that, because of the fact that this guy was the NXT champion last year. And this is when they still had black and gold. He was the NXT champion, and Vince McMahon literally called this dude up and lost his first match to Jeff Hardy in less than 5 minutes. So I love the fact that once Triple H took over, they brought back Karrion Kross, because Karrion Kross is a destined main eventer, and he will guaranteed in the near future be the WWE champion. So after that, we got Maximum Male Models. This Maximum Male Models is the... How do I explain it? It's cringe as shit, but it's funny as hell. So, of course, Max and his kayfabe sister, Maxine Dupree, are in the ring. And they welcome us back to SmackDown live in Anaheim, California. And talks about how they're only a few stones away from LA. Of course, if you guys do not get his reference, of course, Max Dupree's former name, in WWE at least, was LA Knight. Now, outside of the WWE, his name was actually Eli Drake, but his name in the WWE originally was LA Knight, but then once they called him up to the main roster, there he packaged him and basically named him Max Dupree. So it looks like they're slowly moving Max Dupree away from the whole Maximum Male Models garbage and moving him back to LA Knight, which I think will definitely be the right decision to make, because of the fact that LA Knight is that fucking talented, and this guy can literally work with everybody. He's that charismatic. He's amazing at what he does. But says that they are not here for the bright lights of Hollywood. They're here to introduce the Maximum Male Models Back to School collection, which was the funniest shit. I swear to God, this thing was hilarious. Like, as much as I would love to shit on this, because I will absolutely shit on this, and it was pure cringe and garbage. But it was pure cringe and garbage to the point where it was actually really funny. So Mansoor, a.k.a. Mansoor, and Masse, a.k.a. Mace, come out with these fucking, back to school outfits, and they're basically like fashion models, which is the funniest shit ever. And then what happens is Braun Strowman's music plays, and he basically runs through them from behind. That was a great visual to see, and I'm not really that big of a fan of Braun Strowman, but I will admit that was actually pretty funny. But then he takes Masse and drives him to the barricade. Then he takes Mansoor and drops into the ringside area. He takes him in the ring, and then what happens, he goes for a couple of body shots on Mansoor, and then he goes for the powerbomb. Then what happens, Chad Gable comes out, but then Otis attacks Strowman from behind. Otis then takes him down with the clothesline, but then Chad Gable enters the ring. Strowman then takes him out, but then he picks him up. Otis then comes back, but then Otis attacks Strowman in the corner. Otis then picks up Strowman and hits the World's Strongest Slam. Then both leave the ring, but then Strowman immediately gets back up. Then Strowman screams that he will kick his ass. Like, every time when Strowman screams something, whatever it's anything, I swear to God I laugh, because the way he says it is funny as shit. But, yeah, man, of course, Strowman. What are my thoughts on Braun Strowman, honestly? I'm not really the biggest fan of Braun Strowman. I mean, realistically, that whole control your narrative shit was such a joke. And it looks like control your narrative will not be existing longer than AEW. In fact, I don't even know what the hell the next CYN show. But hopefully CYN can, take over the wrestling world. We all want that. But I'm just kidding. But, yeah, man, Strowman... Right now, he's currently feuding with Alpha Academy. Honestly, I do not know what the hell they're going to be doing with Braun Strowman, but, we'll see what they do with him. But, out of all the people that I would have brought back, I wouldn't have brought back Braun Strowman. That is just my opinion. I'm not really the biggest Braun Strowman guy, but, I can see why they brought him back. All right. We get a segment with Bayley and Damage Control, of course. This past Monday on Raw, Damage Control, that being Dakota Kai and Io Sky, defeated the women's tag team champions Aaliyah and Raquel Rodriguez, in which was definitely the right decision to make, because I talked about this on the Raw review. I basically stated that throughout the entirety of the Women's Tag Team Championship tournament, even though they tried their best to try to make people care, I really didn't really care at all. And the fact that they put the titles on Aaliyah and Raquel over Dakota and Io was a dumb decision, to be honest with you. And 2 weeks later, they had them drop the titles to Dakota and Io, which was definitely the right decision to make because they should have won that tournament to begin with. So, of course, Dakota and Io are the new Women's Tag Team Champions. They won it this past Monday on Raw. And Bayley talks about how she is back on SmackDown, and she talks about how she was the longest reigning SmackDown Women's Champion. She introduces everybody to Io, Sky, and Dakota. Guys, she's basically treating everything like, SmackDown has different fans and stuff, which they don't. Like, SmackDown and Raw basically have the same audience, but I get what she's trying to do here. The new Women's Tag Team Champions. Dakota says that, they can go to any brand that they want since they're the champions, and she says that SmackDown is their show. They destroyed Raquel and Aaliyah, and they put her on the shelf. And when Damage Control has something they all want to crave, but we will never have it because we all suck. They all have power. They have the power to win championships. And then after that, Raquel Rodriguez comes out. And she comes out and she doesn't smile like she usually does. Because, ever since she got called up to the main roster, every time when she made her entrance, all she was doing was just smiling. But this time she's not smiling. So she comes out and says that she doesn't see greatness at all. What she sees is 3 bullies that hurt her partner and are powerless from her getting revenge. She runs in the ring, but Damage Control immediately retreats, which would then lead us to have Bayley versus Raquel Rodriguez. Overall, short match. It was a pretty good match for what it was, but obviously, of course, Bayley won the match. It made total sense for Bayley to win, considering the fact that, of course, they're kind of building up Bayley to defeat Bianca Belair for the Raw Women's Championship. That's what I see, and I think the eventual person to drop that title will definitely be Bayley. But we're gonna have to wait and see in the near future. But both lock up. Raquel takes Bayley into the corner. Bayley then fires back with a slap. After that, Raquel chases Bayley all over the outside, but then Damage Control are basically blocking Raquel. But then what happens is Raquel pushes Io, knocking down Dakota Kai. After that, Bayley is back in the inside of the ring. Then after that, Raquel goes for a right. She pushes Bayley, hits a splash into the corner, picks her up, and then drives Bayley into the corner. Then, after that, she spins Bayley around and hits the spinning slam. After that, Raquel is on the apron, but then gets caught by Bayley. She goes for the cutter onto the middle rope, but then Raquel gets taken to the outside. At this point, Raquel gets back into the ring. Bayley goes for repeated shots onto the back of Raquel. Bayley is in control, and then Bayley at this point gets picked up by Raquel, but escapes and drives Raquel onto the turnbuckle. After that, Bayley drives Raquel into the corner turnbuckle once again, but then gets caught by Raquel and throws her across the ring, followed by a big boot. Then she goes to the middle rope, but Damage Control go for the distraction. Bayley then drives her knee on the knee of Raquel, so at this point she is targeting the knee of Raquel at this point. Covered by Bayley and a near fall, but then Bayley continues to be in control. She targets the leg of Raquel, but then we get a cover by Bayley and a near fall once again. Bayley then goes for repeated kicks into the corner of Raquel. Raquel then tries to fight back, but then Raquel goes for the reversal attempt, but Bayley counters, targeting her knee once again. She takes her out from behind, but then we get a cover by Bayley and a near fall. Raquel then takes Bayley up and throws her up into the corner. Then after that, she hits repeated clotheslines. We get a headbutt and a series of clotheslines by Raquel. After that, she picks Bayley up and hits the fall-away slam. She then goes for the second fall-away slam. After that, Raquel goes to the top, but then Dakota and Io interfere. And then Raquel attacks Dakota and pick her up. She slams Dakota on Bayley, but then Raquel hits the elbow on both Dakota and Bayley. She proceeds to pick Bayley up, but then Io Shirai interferes. After that, that would lead to Bayley to hit the Rose Plant. We get a cover, and Bayley beats Raquel Rodriguez. Overall thoughts? Great match overall. Of course, it was definitely expected for Bayley to get the pin over Raquel. It makes total sense. I think we can all agree that Bayley at this point shouldn't lose any match on television because of the fact that they're basically setting Bayley up to win the Raw Women's Championship in the near future. That's just what I see. But then after that, Io Shirai and Bayley attack Raquel, but then Shotzi Blackheart, Shotzi Blackheart comes back to make the save, and then Damage Control retreats. So it looks like Shotzi Blackheart is no longer a heel at this point. She is now a babyface after what happened here, and she's definitely going to be inserted into what they're going to be doing regarding this angle, which I think is fine. I genuinely never understood why they would turn Shotzi Blackheart heel to begin with. Because if you watched her in NXT, she was kind of like this, intense babyface. And that's what I always liked about Shotzi Blackheart. She was actually one of the, some of the reasons why I watched NXT. She was actually fantastic at what she did. But hopefully they do some stuff with Shotzi Blackheart in the near future. But from now on, she is no longer a heel. She is a babyface. We get a backstage interview with Ronda Rousey with Kayla Braxton. And, of course, Ronda Rousey will be facing Liv Morgan at the Extreme Rules pay-per-view. She's asked about her match with Liv, talks about how there will not be any controversy. But Liv Morgan comes in, and she goes face-to-face with Ronda Rousey. Liv cuts this pretty good promo, I would say. I mean, I will say, I will always still stand by the statement. Even though I'm a fan of Liv Morgan, to me, she is not really that believable of a champion. That's just me. And I genuinely believe at Extreme Rules, I think Ronda Rousey at this point is going to win that championship. I just do not see Liv Morgan beating Ronda Rousey. That's just me. I thought Liv Morgan beating Shayna Baszler at Clash at the Castle was the dumb decision to make. I would have put that title on Shayna Baszler like that. But Liv Morgan, back to the segment, cuts this promo. Liv says that she has never met someone that says words that mean nothing more than her. Liv states that Ronda says with all due respect, but she does not respect her. She says that she's the only person in this planet that beat her twice, so if there's anybody that should respect, it's her. Instead, she wants to say the same things that she'd heard her entire career, things like, Liv Morgan doesn't deserve to be champion, but the last time she checked, her shoulders were on the mat and her shoulders were raised and the title was put on her waist. She knows nothing about she knows nothing that she said that is going to make her respect her, but she know what she's gonna have to do what she does her whole career and earn that respect. But the only way she can do that is defeat her a third time, and in order to do that, she wants to face Ronda Rousey in an Extreme Rules match. Wow, we actually got an Extreme Rules match fitting for Extreme Rules because that was like a common. That was for me. That was like a common gripe for like the past couple of years with the Extreme Rules pay-per-view. Like, we got like the pay-per-view called Extreme Rules, and there was like nothing extreme about it whatsoever. Now, granted, this year's Extreme Rules is actually going to be in Philadelphia, which, if you guys do know, I hope you guys do know. But of course, it is the birthplace of Extreme Championship Wrestling, aka ECW. So they're going to be facing off in an Extreme Rules match. And after that, Ronda Rousey states that she wants. After that, Ronda replies that it's going to be her funeral. So she accepts and basically says it's going to be her funeral. Overall thoughts, hopefully, I genuinely see, again, Ronda Rousey, I think it needs to beat Liv Morgan because I'm not really keen on Liv Morgan at this point. I think it's best to put the belt on Ronda Rousey. We're going to wait and see what they do, but it should be a pretty good match. I mean, their match at SummerSlam was fine. I mean, it wasn't really that good in my opinion. It wasn't really that good, but the finish, I thought the finish worked really well, but the match itself is pretty garbage. So hopefully they can rectify that entire match that happened back at SummerSlam. All right. Drew McIntyre immediately cuts off Michael Cole and Corey Graves and stands up top of the announce table. Talks about how he congratulates Cross, and he finally has his attention. He's been waiting for him all day in the back, but it seems that if he jumps him from behind, he doesn't have the balls to face him like a man. He asks him for a favor. Finally grows a set of balls and face off with him. He says that he will make him a promise. He talks about a lot about his TikTok. He's obsessed with time, but for Karrion Kross, time is running out for him. The only countdown he should be worried about is 3, 2, 1, lights out. Of course, he's referencing to his Claymore kick. So, I think the most logical choice right here is for WWE to book a match at Extreme Rules between both Karrion Kross and Drew McIntyre, which I actually see if that match is going to be the case. I see that match. I see that match being really good. Not only that, I see Karrion Kross actually getting the win because right now they're setting up Karrion Kross to be like this fucking unstoppable dude, which makes total sense because it's Karrion fucking Kross we're talking about, and Karrion Kross in the near future should be destined for the World Championship. Now, we all know that they are going to split up the championships in the near future. Those titles are not going to be unified anytime soon. So once Roman will eventually drop the title, hopefully we'll see Karrion Kross with the championship. But for right now, he is currently feuding with Drew McIntyre, and I think they will deliver a fantastic match. Hopefully they'll book that match at Extreme Rules. Solo Sikoa and the Bloodline are backstage before, of course, Solo Sikoa's NXT North American title defense. Jey Uso states that they will have his back just like they did last week, but Solo says that Jey was off his game today, and he calls Sami and asks him to come with him, which was definitely very interesting. So after that, we got Solo Sikoa versus Madcap Moss for the NXT North American Championship. Of course, Solo Sikoa won the North American Championship this past Tuesday night on NXT 2.0 against Carmelo Hayes, which was great to see. Solo Sikoa now has a championship, and then the Bloodline has another championship. Now, Roman Reigns has the WWE and Universal titles. The Usos have both of the SmackDown and Raw tag titles, and now Solo Sikoa has the North American title. Overall thoughts on this match. It was a great match overall. Madcap Moss definitely did look great in this match. He always looked great. He's a fantastic wrestler. But overall, it was a great match. Of course, Solo Sikoa retained the title, which made total sense because he just won it a couple days prior. The match starts. Both lock up again, but then Moss pushes Solo Sikoa. We get a waist lock by Madcap Moss, but then we get a back elbow by Solo Sikoa. We get a couple of right hands by Madcap Moss, followed by a couple of knees. But then Solo fights back with the clothesline. We get a kick by Solo Sikoa, and then he hits a headbutt. Moss then tries to fight back. Solo then goes for a couple of chops, but then Moss fires back with the shoulder tackle. And then Moss, after that, clotheslines him onto the outside. Then Moss goes to the outside, but then he takes Solo to the announce table. At this point, Sami Zayn goes for the distraction. He fires back with the clothesline on Madcap Moss, but then Solo sends Moss to the barricade. Then he takes Moss back in the ring, but then Solo goes for the spinning heel kick on Madcap Moss. Solo at this point is in control over Madcap. We get a cover by Solo and a near fall. After that, Moss tries to fight back with a couple of body shots, but then Solo Sikoa regains control with rights of his own. Then Solo goes, basically throws Madcap Moss into the corner, followed by a belly-to-belly suplex. Solo then hits the running hip attack on Moss in the corner. We get a cover by Solo and a near fall after that. Moss then goes for a couple of rights, but then Solo hits a right of his own. He hits repeated stomps on Madcap Moss, so at this point, Solo Sikoa is in control of the match. Solo then sets up a hip attack, but then Moss fires back with the chop block. Moss then goes for repeated rights. Moss then fires back with the Furious Clothesline, followed by forearm. Then he plants Solo to the mat face first. Moss then spears Solo twice in the corner. Then after that, he tries to set up the punchline, but then plants Solo to the mat. We get a cover by Madcap and a near fall. Madcap then tries to fight back with the elbow and hits the headbutt, but then he picks up Solo. Actually, no, he picks up Moss, but then Moss escapes. Moss then drives Solo into the corner, but then Solo fires back and hits the Samoan drop. We get a cover by Solo and a near fall, but then Solo goes for repeated rights, or stomps, I should say, on Madcap. Solo then tries to drive Moss to the mat, and then he goes for the Uranagi, but then Moss escapes. Moss then goes for the roll-up, and we get a near fall. Solo at this point gets caught by Moss. Moss then manages to hit the fall-away slam after that. Moss then tries to drive him into the corner, but then Sami Zayn pulls Solo onto the outside. Moss then chases Zayn around the ring, which leads to him returning back to the inside, and Solo manages to hit the super kick on Moss. Then Solo drives Moss with the Uranagi. We get a cover. 1, 2, 3. Solo Sikoa beats Madcap Moss, and he retains his NXT North American Championship. Overall thoughts on this match? I love the fact that the NXT North American title is being defended here on SmackDown. Not only that, I love the fact Solo looked absolutely great, and I love the story that they're telling with Sami Zayn, of course, Jey Uso, and Solo Sikoa as well included. But great match. It was definitely expected for Solo Sikoa to retain that title. I don't think they would put that title on Madcap Moss anytime. Just let's be honest. It was pretty predictable. It's announced that Roman Reigns will return to SmackDown next week. And then we got our main event. We got a fatal four-way for the WWE. Well, not a fatal four for the titles. We got a number one contenders fatal four-way match whoever wins will face the Usos next week on SmackDown for the Unified Tag Team Championships. We got Hit Row, consisting of Top Dollar and Ashante Adonis, versus the New Day, consisting of Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods. We got Imperium, consisting of Ludwig Kaiser and Giovanni Avicii, a.k.a. Marcel Bartel and Fabian Eichner. And we got the Brawling Brutes, of course, that being Pete Dunne, a.k.a. Butch, and Rich Holland. What are my thoughts on this match? This match was absolutely fan-fucking-tastic. I loved this match. This match was great. This was definitely the highlight of the entire show, in my opinion. And the reason why I say this was the highlight of the entire show is because of the fact that every single tag team in this match literally got a chance to shine. Hit Row, especially Top Dollar, was fantastic. Xavier Woods was out of this world. You had Imperium being completely dominant. Pete Dunne, fucking fantastic. And they're slowly reverting Butch back into Pete Dunne because they kind of started doing the slow changes. Of course, you know, Butch now has his Pete Dunne attire on, so I feel like in the near future they're gonna repackage him back to Pete Dunne. We're gonna have to wait and see. But again, overall thoughts on this Fatal 4-Way match. It was a fantastic match, and this is really what you would expect to see under a Triple H production, because under Triple H he will focus a lot on tag team wrestling. With Bruce Pritchard and Vince McMahon at the helm, they didn't give a single shit about tag team wrestling at all. They didn't care at all. The tag team titles meant jack shit. Even though they were on the Usos, the tag team titles still don't mean anything. But overall thoughts on this match, this was a fantastic match. Of course, they did tease a little bit with Sheamus and Gunther on the outside of the ring, which was great to see. But, yeah, man, let's talk about this match, man. So Butch and Ludwig Kaiser start. Both go after one another, and then both go exchange shots. We get an Insecurity by Butch. Then after that, shit, literally my notes are getting messed up at this point. What the hell is going on here? What the hell is going on here? Oh my god. Let me see that. I'm so sorry, guys. My notes literally got messed up. Like, literally, it's a literal botch fest right here. So let's see. Let's try to fix stuff. Open notes. Okay, let's exit there. Let's go back. What the hell is going on here? All right. Why is it's not letting me scroll down? What the fuck is going on? All right, let's quit and then go back. It's literally like not letting me open this. I don't know why. My apologies, ladies and gentlemen. But the overall thoughts on this match. This match was okay. There we go. Now they work. We have a little bit of technical difficulties happening on this review, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, as Michael Cole would say, anything can happen, right? Anything. Oh my god, it's still botching once again. It's botching. Okay, there we go. What the hell is I can't scroll down. What the fuck is going on with this thing? All right. But both exchange shots. We get an Insecurity by Butch. We're finally back. Butch goes to the outside. Vinci then enters the fray, but then Holland takes him out. Sheamus and Gunther then proceed to face off, which looked absolutely fantastic, of course. Every time. And this was the case the previous week on SmackDown. When Sheamus and Gunther faced off, the crowd started to go apeshit for them. Sheamus is like hotter than ever at this point. Sheamus is super over. After that Gunther match that happened at Clash, this dude is super over. And I love to see it. Sheamus is fantastic. Top Dollar then throws Ashante Adonis to the outside. Then after that, Top Dollar is left in the ring. And then after that, he looks like he's going to go over the top rope, but then Vinci takes out Top Dollar. Woods at this point goes for a boot, and then he goes for the senton over the top rope onto the outside, taking everybody out. And then Kofi runs over Top Dollar to do the same thing. Once we're back from commercial break, Kaiser is in control over Butch. We get a cover and a near fall. He continues to work on Butch, but at this point, Butch is taking Kaiser down. Then at this point, Butch is in control once again. Then he Butch works on the finger of Ludwig Kaiser. After that, what happens is, he twists it. After that, Holland makes the tag. We get a double team by both members of the Brawling Brutes. We get a cover into near fall. At this point, Kaiser goes for the slap. Then after that, Vinci goes for the shot to the back, but then Vinci tags in. We get an arm drag by Giovanni Vinci. Vinci is at this point in control over Rich Holland. Vinci then goes for the uppercut and then followed by a chop. Holland then drives Vinci with a belly suplex. At this point, Top Dollar makes the tag. We get a shoulder tackle, no-sold by Top Dollar. Holland then fights back and goes for an uppercut, but then he tries to suplex him, but Top Dollar hits a suplex on Holland. After that, Shante Adonis tags in. Hit Row then goes for the double team. We get a cover by Rich Holland and a near fall after that. Adonis goes for the drop kick. Then Kofi Kingston makes the tag in. Then he drops Adonis down to the mat, and then he goes for the boom drop. Kaiser then comes in and drives Kofi shoulder first onto the ring post. After that, Giovanni Vinci makes the tag. Then he goes for the double drop kick on Kofi by Imperium. At this point, once we're back from commercial break, Kaiser is in control over Kofi Kingston. Kofi then tries to fight back, but then he regains control. Kofi then goes to the corner. After that, he throws Kaiser to the outside. Then he tries to tag Woods, but then Kaiser gets, he goes for the back body drop. Woods actually then manages to make the tag. At this point, Vinci is the legal man. Woods then takes out Vinci, but then Kaiser comes in. We get a rolling clothesline by Xavier Woods. At this point, he takes out everybody. He takes both Butch and Adonis with the double DDT. And then he takes out Vinci with the side Russian leg sweep. So at this point, Woods is taking out everybody in the match. And as I've stated, Woods was like, I would honestly say like Woods is like the MVP, was like the MVP of this entire match. Then he drops Vinci with the Michinoku driver. After that, he chops Vinci. He picks him up, but then Vinci escapes, and then he hits a clothesline. Butch then makes the tag, and he takes out everybody. He drives his knee onto Woods. Butch then goes to the apron, and he hits a moonsault on Imperium. Then Butch drives his knee on Kofi. Ashante Adonis goes for... Actually, no. He goes for the German suplex on Ashante Adonis. Ashante doesn't do the German. We get a couple of stomps to the head and kicks him onto the back of the neck of Adonis. After that, Top Dollar enters the fray. And we get repeated overhand chops on Top Dollar. But Top Dollar fires back with the boot, taking out Butch. What happens after this is Kofi goes up on Top Dollar's shoulders. And this was my favorite part of the entire match. Kofi Kingston goes on the shoulders of Top Dollar. What happens is Butch goes up as well. And then Woods, it looked like he tried to go for a crossbody, but instead, Top Dollar actually managed to catch Woods. So he has all three men literally picked up. And he basically takes all of them all down. I don't know about you, but that was fantastic. Top Dollar is amazing at what he does, man. Then after that, Holland comes in. He tries to pick up Top Dollar, but then Top Dollar tries to go for the powerbomb. But Holland picks him up for the Alabama fucking slam. So Holland legit hit an Alabama slam on Top Dollar. If that is not strength, I don't know what is. We get a cover into near fall. At this point, Woods is the legal man. Ashante Adonis tries to enter the fray, but then both fight it out. Woods goes for the super kick. Then at this point, Kofi then tags in. After that, Kofi goes for the suicide dive, taking Top Dollar over the announce table. After that, Woods is at the same time drives Adonis down to the mat. Kofi goes to the top and hits a splash. We get a cover into near fall. Woods goes for the crossbody onto the outside. At this point, Giovanni Vinci tags in. He rolls up Kofi into near fall. Kofi then rolls him up in reversal. And after that, actually, no, Kofi rolls him up again. We get a near fall. Vinci then at this point goes for the spine buster. We get a knee by Kaiser. Kaiser then makes the tag and goes to the second rope. But without noticing, Rich Holland makes the tag. And Imperium still goes for the Imperial Bomb even without noticing that Rich Holland actually made the tag. So Rich Holland realistically is the legal man in the entire match. And then what happens is Holland goes for the cover and manages to win the match. And the Brawling Brutes now will face the Usos for the Tag Team Championships next week. Overall thoughts on this match? Fantastic match. This match was amazing. I don't give a shit what anybody says, man. This match was off the frickin' charts. And look, will it be the case of the Brawling Brutes actually winning the Tag Team Championships? This is my honest answer. No. My guess is what's going to happen is we're going to have Imperium interfere in the match, considering the fact that in storyline, Imperium had this match won, and basically Rich Holland basically stole the win. So I think it's going to be a scenario in which, Imperium actually costs them the match, which will then lead to a future match later down the road at the Extreme Rules pay-per-view, which will 100% be a fucking banger. But yeah, that was my thoughts on SmackDown. Overall thoughts on SmackDown. SmackDown was a fine show. Realistically, the only two main things that happened on the show was, of course, the opening segment and this match. It looks like they're kind of stacking up SmackDown for next week. Of course, Roman Reigns is going to be returning. But overall thoughts on the show. It was a fine show for what it was. Was it absolutely terrible? No, but it wasn't, It was just a normal SmackDown, your everyday SmackDown. So really nothing special realistically happened on the show besides Logan Paul and everything else. All right. Before we get on to the AEW Rampage review, of course, make sure to like and subscribe to the WrestleHavoc Podcast right here on YouTube, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content, and as the frickin' referee would say, ring that damn bell for more notifications. Also, the WrestleHavoc Podcast is also available on audio platforms. It's available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, and Google Podcasts. So if you guys want to listen on everything that I say on the WrestleHavoc Podcast in audio format, it is available on all of those platforms. The link will be in the description below. All right, now let's go to AEW Rampage. It's been a while since I've reviewed Rampage. Let's be 100% honest. So this is Rampage from September 16th. 2022. We got Darby Allin versus Matt Hardy. We got Chris Jericho challenging Claudio Castagnoli on Dynamite for the Ring of Honor World Championship. We got Samoa Joe taking on Josh Woods. Of course, Samoa Joe is defending his Ring of Honor Television Championship as well. We got Penelope Ford versus Willow Nightingale as well. We got, some things that happened on Rampage. But before I get on with the Rampage review, I'm going to give you guys, honestly, my thoughts on Rampage overall as a show. Look, Rampage is not a bad show. Let's be honest. Rampage is not a bad show whatsoever. It's not. But if I say that it's not a bad show, then I'm just completely ignoring the negatives. Rampage has problems. And, it's problems that are, in a way, kind of out of Tony Khan's control, but at the same time are in Tony Khan's control. One of my biggest problems with Rampage, and this is a scenario of, being in Tony Khan's, it's completely out of Tony Khan's control, is the time slot. Rampage's time slot on TNT is 10 o'clock at 1 hour. That is a shitty time slot. Let's be honest. It's a terrible time slot, and realistically, it really makes me not care about the show. Number two, this is another scenario in which this is not another scenario, but this is actually a scenario that is in Tony Khan's control. My biggest issue with Rampage is I do not care as much about Rampage, and that's really realistically the main issue that I have with it. I do not care a lot about Rampage. The reason why I say that is primarily because of the fact that the show is taped in most weeks. Now, I believe throughout the month of October and November, Rampage will be live for most weeks, so that is a positive. But with the taped Rampage show, I think, it kind of takes the atmosphere away. And not only that, it's just, when you watch a taped wrestling show, you could easily look up the spoilers and stuff. So realistically, it's not really that interesting in my opinion. And, all the matches that happened on Rampage just kind of just happened. They're not really that special to me. Really, the only special episodes of Rampage are those live Rampages. That's the only time where I actually care about Rampage. And another aspect of the fact that, Rampage is, really, just kind of struggling is because of the fact that, the show is not live every week. The show needs to be live every week to be special, in my opinion. And Rampage, what AEW realistically needs to do with Rampage is they need, and look, if I said this, last year when Rampage first debuted, I would have been like, absolutely not. But I think it's safe to say that, number one, Rampage needs to move nights at least to a Thursday night. Now, granted, Tony Khan has went on record and said that he does not want to compete with Thursday Night Football, but, Thursday Night Football only happens, from the fall up till February. So, realistically, it doesn't matter. I do not watch football. But, who gives a shit? It's fucking Rampage we're talking about. Just move it to Thursday nights at a decent time slot at 8 o'clock on TNT and move it to 2 hours. I think Rampage moving to 2 hours is definitely beneficial for them. And Rampage this week will actually be 2 hours because it's Grand Slam. They did this last year as well, but it's going to be in the same time slot on the same night. So realistically, it's still the same episode of Rampage, but it's a 2 hour show. But again, they need to move the time slot. They need to move it to 2 hours, and they need to move, the day. Like, move it to Thursday nights. I think that's the best decision. And also move that show live every week. Give me a reason to watch Rampage. And I will admit, Rampage has had some improvement. They've been adding more, in a way, intriguing matches on Rampage. And hopefully within the next couple months, they tend to start fixing Rampage. But again, my biggest issue with Rampage is the fact that it's completely taped. It's not really as important, in my opinion. Realistically, when you watch AEW, you watch it for Dynamite. Dynamite is like the main show, of course. But Rampage, really needs some work. And I think hopefully in the next couple of months, Tony Khan actually fixes Rampage and actually does the things that I hope they actually do. But, yeah, man, let's talk about AEW Rampage. In our first match of the evening, we got Darby Allin versus Matt Hardy. This was a relatively short match, but it was pretty entertaining to watch. Both lock up. Darby goes for the wrist lock. We get a side headlock takeover by Darby. Matt Hardy regains control. We get a side headlock applied by Darby, followed by a side headlock takeover again by Darby. Darby then goes for the crucifix pin and we get a near fall. Matt at this point goes to the outside. Darby is on the apron, but then goes back in the ring. But then Darby tries to go for the suicide dive, but then Hardy catches him. Darby then drives Matt to the steel steps, but then he takes Hardy back in the ring. Darby goes to the top, and then Darby mocks the Hardy pose. After that, Matt Hardy picks up Darby and drives him to the ring post. At this point, Hardy then drives the spine of Darby onto the ring post once we're back from commercial break. Matt Hardy is in control. Darby then tries to fight back, but then Darby tries to go for the springboard, but then gets caught by Matt Hardy. After that, Darby goes for the roll-up, and we get a near fall. We get a kick by Darby, and then he drives Matt repeatedly into the corner with the coffin splash. After that, Matt then catches Darby with the side effect. After that, we get a cover by Hardy, I should say, and a near fall. Darby then counters the twist of fate. We get a backslide by Darby, and we get a near fall. Matt then tries to go for the brainbuster, but then Darby counters with the scorpion death drop. At this point, Darby goes to the top, but then Hardy comes back. He takes Darby up on his shoulders with the BT bomb. We get a cover again and a near fall. Matt goes to the top, and then he misses the moonsault. Darby then manages to hit the code red after that. He misses the moonsault. Darby hits the code red. We get a cover and a near fall. Darby then goes for the roll-up, and Darby wins the match. After that, the lights go out, and then the House of Black surround Matt Hardy. So that being Julia Hart and Brody King. Brody then clotheslines Hardy, but then he calls out Darby and Sting. Sting and then Darby come out. Brody then says that, does he think this is over? And he challenges Darby and Sting to a match at Grand Slam. And it will be Darby and Sting versus the House of Black, consisting of Buddy Matthews and Brody King. After that, what happens is they basically kind of like choke out Matt Hardy, but then, of course, Darby accepts. And then they come back to aid Matt Hardy, but then the Let's Go out and the House of Black disappear. So overall thoughts on this match, it was a fine opening match realistically, but again, is it a match that I really care about? Realistically not, because of the fact that, of course, Darby Allin got the win. All right, we got a video package of Sammy Guevara versus Eddie Kingston for Rampage Grand Slam next week. They're actually they're actually setting up Rampage Grand Slam to be a great show, in my opinion. I will say this. We got the ROH World Champion, Claudio Castagnoli. Of course, he's getting interviewed by Tony Schiavone in the ring. Claudio Castagnoli basically puts over the Ring of Honor Championship, says that the championship represents honor. Of course, this logo, talking about the Blackpool Combat Club, is the new symbol of excellence. Blackpool Combat Club is a team, and it's a family that make each other better. Unfortunately, Wheeler Yuta lost the ROH Pure Championship against Daniel Garcia in a fantastic And yes, I said it, fantastic match on Dynamite. Daniel Garcia, of course, is the new Ring of Honor Pure Champion. The best lessons that in life you learn when you lose. He knows that he will get back his Pure title, and at Rampage, he defended his title against Dax Harwood. Next week, it's going to be a great week for the Blackpool Combat Club because both Jon Moxley and Bryan Danielson are in the finals of the AEW World Championship Tournament. And if they have to fight each other, then that's all right, because it guarantees them that the Blackpool Combat Club will have 2 world champions in its ranks. So that is actually a great promo by Claudio Castagnoli. And then what happens is Chris Jericho comes out. He comes out from commentary. It says that the Blackpool Combat Club, he says that Claudio says that the Blackpool Combat Club is a symbol of excellence, but he asks Claudio if he has forgotten about the Jericho Appreciation Society. He says that he has been watching him week in and week out and talks about how he has been a 7-time world champion. He's been competing for the AEW World. He talks about how he should be competing for the AEW World Championship at Grand Slam, but he isn't. And it's not because of the fact that he tapped out, but after that, Claudio says that is the exact reason. And then we get a bunch of "you tapped out" chants. And then Chris Jericho touts at the fact that he was a world champion in the WWF, WWE, WCW, and he was the first ever AEW world champion. And guess what? Not only he is the best wrestler ever, he is the best sports entertainer ever. And the one place he was never world champion of was Ring of Honor. 7 isn't enough for him. And I love this line by Chris Jericho. He is going for the Ocho. That is why he is challenging him for the Ring of Honor World Championship next week on Dynamite at Grand Slam, where he was born. And Claudio says that he's been waiting for this moment for a long time. Claudio accepts the challenge and says that he's going to beat the hell out of him. So it's official. On Dynamite this Wednesday, we will not have 4 championship matches. We will have 5. And that 5th championship match will be Claudio Castagnoli defending his Ring of Honor World Championship against Chris Jericho, which, on paper, a lot of people will say, why is Chris Jericho challenging for the ROH Pure Championship? But you have to really look at it from a certain perspective, right? Let's look at it from a certain perspective. This is a very intriguing match to me. I do not know why. There could be I genuinely believe and look, people may crucify me for this, but I'll admit, Chris Jericho there's like a small chance that Chris Jericho could possibly win the ROH World Championship. And realistically, if you kind of think about it, it is kind of in a way, a good storyline idea, because what does the ROH World Championship represent? Professional wrestling. Chris Jericho takes that championship due to a fuck finish with Claudio Castagnoli. He takes the title from him, and then Jericho can tout at the fact that, hey, I'm a sports entertainer, and I beat your ass, and I hold the championship that represents professional wrestling. It's up on my shoulder, and it's held by a sports entertainer. I don't know. That's a very intriguing match to me, and that is actually, this and the world title match are everybody's going to watch Grand Slam for Danielson versus Moxley. But Jericho and Claudio, again, is a very intriguing match. Realistically, if you think about it, it is not a bad idea. And there's many aspects that you can go when it comes to Claudio Castagnoli and Chris Jericho for the ROH World Championship. Now, we do not know when ROH will start up with weekly television. That is still something that is completely a mystery right now. But we're going to have to wait and see what they do with ROH. But if they put the title on Chris Jericho, honestly, realistically, I kind of wouldn't have a problem with it. It kind of sounds very stupid, hypothetically, but if you really think about it, it is not a bad idea. But that is just me. But yeah, man, overall, great segment. And I'm actually excited for that match. Jade Cargill is in a backstage interview. Talks about how she's asked about running through the entire women's locker room for the past 9 months. Kiera Hogan says that she's, all this winning has been getting boring. And Jade asks who is left. Talks about it's a new day and she is running no circus. But then what happens? Diamante comes in and challenges Jade Cargill for the TBS Championship for Grand Slam next week. So that is going to be a very interesting match right there. Diamante, we haven't seen Diamante on AEW Rampage or Dynamite for months now. That's crazy. I didn't know she was still in AEW. I believe she was wrestling on Dark. Correct me if I'm wrong. I do not watch Dark or Dark Elevation. We got Penelope Ford versus Willow Nightingale. Pretty good match overall. Short match. Both lock up. We got a knee by Ford. We got a shoulder tackle by Willow Nightingale. We got a side headlock by Willow. We got a waist lock by Ford. And then we get a kick to the midsection by Ford. We get, after that, Willow attempts to, we get a couple of hip attacks, I believe, by Ford. Willow counters with the roll-up. We got a near fall. Willow goes for the inside cradle, and then we get a near fall. Then we get a kick to the back, or kick blocked by Willow. We got a chop by Willow. Willow then slams Ford. Later on in the match, Ford would go for the pump kick, and then she drops Willow down. Ford applies the Indian Deathlock for the win, and Penelope Ford wins the match. It was a generic women's match that happened on Rampage, so really nothing really special happened here. We get a backstage interview with Hangman Page. Hangman apologizes over what happened at All Out. Reynolds says that it was an accident. Of course, if you guys do not recall, at the end of that trios match between both the Dark Order and the Elite, Hangman Page by accident hit the Buckshot Lariat on John Silver, which was a fantastic finish, I might add, because then you can create a new angle out of that. But, of course, Hangman apologizes over that incident and says next week it's going to be every man for themselves in the Battle Royal on Rampage. Of course, next week on Rampage Grand Slam, it's going to be a Battle Royal determining who will face the winner of Jon Moxley versus Bryan Danielson in the near future for the AEW World Championship. My guess, it's going to be on a future episode of Dynamite because of the fact that Full Gear is literally down the line in November, and I think MJF will basically beat whoever, either Jon Moxley or Bryan Danielson. That's just me. But, yeah, Rush then and Jose come in, and then Rush states that he's going to eliminate all of their asses. We get All Ego, Ethan Page. Of course, Ethan Page is a part of Stokely Hathaway's new faction called The Firm. If you guys haven't checked out or know about The Firm, The Firm is this new faction that was built around Stokely Hathaway and MJF technically as well, and they all got goals. Ethan Page wants to win the All-Atlantic Championship. Lee Moriarty wants to win the ROH Pure Championship. The Gun Club wants to win the tag team titles, and W. Morrissey is just there. But, yeah, man, we got we got Ethan Page versus Danhausen. Realistically, this was a squash match. We get a waistlock by Danhausen. We get a big boot by Page. We get repeated rights by Page. Page then mocks Danhausen. Danhausen goes for a couple of right hands. Page then fires up with a shoulder tackle, and he picks Danhausen up with the Ego's Edge. 1, 2, 3. Ethan Page basically squashes Danhausen. Ricky Starks is backstage and basically cuts a promo on Ricky Starks and says that he will see him in NYC. Then we got our main event of the evening. We got Samoa Joe versus Josh Woods for the Ring of Honor Television Championship. Overall, it was a pretty good match overall. I enjoyed the match. Josh Woods is fantastic at what he does. Of course, Josh Woods is a former Ring of Honor Pure Champion. Of course, Wheeler Yuta defeated Josh Woods back at Supercard of Honor to win that ROH Pure Championship. But this time, he's going to be facing Samoa Joe for the TV title. So, both, of course, apply the Code of Honor, which is a common thing in Ring of Honor. Then Joe, we get the Joe is going to kill you chance. Both lock up, both push each other. We got a side headlock by Joe. Woods then applies the side headlock, but then Woods goes for the right hand. At this point, Joe goes for a right of his own. Both exchange shots. We get repeated elbows by Woods. At this point, Joe goes for a couple of rights. Woods then blocks the headbutt and drives his knee on Joe. After that, Woods gets taken to the outside, but then Tony Nese tries to interfere when the referee is distracted. We get a cover into near fall. Once we're back from commercial break, Woods is in control over Samoa Joe. We get a pump kick by Woods, but then Woods goes for the hammerlock, but then Joe transitions into the sleeper hold. After that, Woods targets his arm, and then Woods goes for the side slam. Then after that, we get a cover and a near fall. At this point, Joe goes for a right and a chop. After that, Woods goes for the leaping attempt, but then Joe counters in with an atomic drop. We get a big boot by Joe, followed by a senton. We get a cover and a near fall. When Woods then targets the shoulder of Joe, but then he gets taken into the corner. Then he goes for the power slam. We get a cover and a near fall. Joe then takes Woods to the top. Then he wants to hit the muscle buster, but then Smart Mark Sterling is on the apron with the distraction. Woods then goes for the roll-up, and then we get a near fall. He drives his knee, but then he picks up Joe. He hits the knee, and then we get a cover and a near fall. Woods then picks up Joe, but then Joe escapes. At this point, he's on the corner. Then Woods gets caught by Joe and hits the Uranagi. After that, Joe takes Woods to the top and manages to hit the Muscle Buster. We get a cover, 1, 2, 3, and Samoa Joe retains the Ring of Honor World TV Championship. But then after that, Tony Nese and Woods attack Samoa Joe. At this point, Sterling is in the ring. Wardlow, of course, Wardlow is the current TNT champion. He comes out and he tries to powerbomb him, but then Nese drags Smart Mark Sterling outside of the ring. Both Joe and Wardlow face off, kind of teasing maybe a future match in the near future, but I would love to see a match between both Wardlow and Samoa Joe. That'd be a really intriguing match for me. But, of course, both kind of gave each other a toast with their respective championships, and it has been announced that Wardlow and Samoa Joe will face Tony Nese and Josh Woods on Rampage next week. So, yeah, that was Rampage from September 16th, 2022. Overall thoughts on Rampage. It was your generic episode of Rampage. Realistically, as I've stated at the top of this Rampage review, Rampage needs some work, and I think in the near future they will manage to fix Rampage. But it was a fine show overall. Really, nothing special happened. Of course, realistically, the main thing that happened on the show was Chris Jericho challenging Claudio Castagnoli for the ROH World Championship at Grand Slam on Dynamite. Originally, I thought it was going to be on Rampage, but no, it's actually going to be on Dynamite. So if it's going to happen on Dynamite, there's going to be some shenanigans that are happening there. So that is a match that I'm definitely very intrigued about. But overall, Rampage was a fine show. But yeah, that was my Rampage and SmackDown reviews from September 16th, 2022. Please like, subscribe, comment down below, push that bell for notifications, and be on the lookout for more videos right here on the WrestleHavoc Podcast, right here on YouTube, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the scored circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content, and as the freaking referee would say, ring that damn bell for more notifications. Also, the WrestleHavoc Podcast is also available on audio platforms. It's available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, and Google Podcasts. So if you guys want to check out the WrestleHavoc Podcast in audio format, it is available on all of those platforms. The link will be in the description below. But as always, it is Flamin' Ricky DeRays from the WrestleHavoc Podcast, signing out.